Hello everyone, I'm the Quiet F, and this is my recap of Hokkaido Gals Are Super Adorable. So, without further ado, let's recap. The episode starts with Tsubasa in a taxi admiring the snow fallen in Hokkaido. His father texts him and says he would not be able to pick him up because of work, and he should go to the house by himself. As soon as they enter the city of Kitami, he asks the driver to stop and leave the cab, because he thinks he's already close to his new house. He's impressed with the landscape and the soothing feeling the city has, but when he tries to breathe the fresh air, his lungs almost freeze. He thinks moving to Hokkaido in winter might have been a bad idea. He can't even use his phone because of the gloves. But then he looks up and sees a beautiful blonde girl at the bus stop right in front of him, a true Hokkaido gyaru. The girl was wearing nothing but a scarf and a light jacket to protect her from the cold, and Tsubasa can't believe what he's seeing, because he's freezing to death even in his heavy coat. The girl notices him staring at her and he gets close to ask for her help locating his new house. When he approaches her, he notices how cute she is. She points him in the right direction and he starts walking, still mesmerized by her looks. Right after he leaves, the girl calls him back, asking if he's really going to walk all the way, because the place he was talking about is 3 hours away from there. Kitami is actually the largest city in the Hokkaido province, and Tsubasa realizes he has made a terrible mistake when he got out of the cab there. The girl says cabs don't usually drive there, and it would take at least 30 minutes for one to arrive. She tells him the bus will take him right where he wants to be, and it's coming in 5 minutes, and she asks if he wants to wait with her. The girl asks him where he's from, and she gets excited all of a sudden when he says he's from Tokyo, because it's weird for a person from Tokyo to move to Hokkaido out of nowhere, and Tsubasa explains about his father's work. She thinks Tsubasa might find her weird and lame, but he says it's actually the opposite. He finds the place very relaxing. Back in Tokyo, he was the one people used to call lame, but no one knows about that there, so it's a relief to him. They keep talking and find out they're both 16 years old and going to the Hokurio High School, which gets the girl excited again, and Tsubasa is nervous because she's too close to him, and something squishy is touching him. The girl sneezes and her nose starts running, which for some reason makes Tsubasa really happy, and he hands her a tissue, thinking that he never talks to a girl back in Tokyo, and he wonders if all the girls in Hokkaido are like that. While he's daydreaming, the girl calls him, and when he doesn't answer, she drops a bunch of snow on the inside of his clothes. His exaggerated reaction makes her laugh really hard, which then makes Tsubasa think about how pretty she is. He doesn't realize he has said that out loud, and she hears it, so she gets flustered and punches him. The bus arrives and Tsubasa asks for her name before she walks on, and she says it's Minami Fuyuki. She says goodbye and enters the bus. Tsubasa is really happy he moved to Hokkaido because he could meet a girl like her. Then his father texts him asking if he's at the house yet, and he realizes he was supposed to catch the bus with Minami. Meanwhile, Minami thinks it would be fun if Tsubasa was in her class. The next day at school, Tsubasa introduces himself to the class and goes sit at the back. He looks around and doesn't see Minami anywhere, which is okay. He's always liked dark-haired, serious girls. He only thought Hokkaido gals were awesome because Minami had caught him by surprise. Then, as if by cue, Minami walks in right behind him, and she's really happy they're both at the same class and even sitting right next to each other. And Tsubasa can't believe all of that is really happening. Minami says Tsubasa Shiki is a pretty name, and he almost passes out when she calls him by his first name, even though they have just met. Tsubasa is freezing in that room, and he can't even pay attention to the class. He notices that everyone else is wearing blankets on their legs, and he didn't even think of bringing his coat. Minami notices him shaking and lends him a blanket, because she always brings two with her, and that helps him a lot. It's warm and it smells like Minami, and it's as if she's embracing him from... Anyway, he shakes that thought from his mind. His hormones take the wheel. After class, Tsubasa gets Minami the blanket back, and she immediately smells it, saying that it smells like the two of them smooshed together. She then asks him for something in return, which is them walking home together. And when I say together, I mean together, like this. Minami asks Tsubasa to walk her to the train station, and right then, she asks him if he has a girlfriend, and he immediately says no. They talk about dating spots in Tokyo, although Tsubasa has never gone on dates, but he seems to know a lot about the spots. He asks Minami where the people in Kitami hang out, and she says winter is too cold for people to go outside, so they just go to each other's houses instead. They get to the station and start saying their goodbyes, but Minami calls Tsubasa and invites him to her house the next day, because she wants to talk more about Tokyo. He's a bit nervous about the invitation, but the idea of going to a beautiful girl's house is not something you would easily reject, so he accepts it. He gets to her house the next day, thinking that he'd never been to a girl's house before, and it was only his third day in Hokkaido. He's sure his family would be furious if they found out, but the temptation was too strong for him not to go. He rings the doorbell and Minami answers, asking him to come in. He gets inside and is already startled because she's dressed in a way that shows a bit too much, and to make things even more confusing, she says that luckily her parents aren't home. They go to the living room, which is really warm because there's a strong heater there. And Minami starts teasing him because she likes the way he reacts. She leans forward on the coffee table in a provocative way, asks him what they should do. But before Tsubasa can react, she gets up to get something for him to drink. When she goes put the carton back in the fridge, she spills some of it on her clothes, and Tsubasa's hormones almost take charge again, if you know what I mean. She feels sticky and goes change, while Tsubasa tries to pull himself together. But his attempt at calming down goes down the drain when Minami comes back dressed like this, which is what she usually wears inside because it's warm. Tsubasa desperately tries to ignore the fact that there's a super hot girl in underwear right in front of him, and he picks up a movie he's brought for them to watch. But it doesn't look like he'll be able to calm down anytime soon. To make matters worse, the movie is a romance, and Tsubasa is trying not to look like he's enjoying too much. Then he starts hearing some moaning sounds, and realizes it's Minami, and he starts spiraling because he thinks she's touching herself. When her foot touches his leg, he almost loses it. But then she starts talking nonsense, and he realizes she was just sleeping. He thinks she's being careless by sleeping right next to a guy she barely knows, dressed like that. But then he thinks she might not even see him as a guy. After a while, Minami wakes up and asks about the movie. Tsubasa says it was over, and he didn't want to wake her up, so he would leave the Blu-ray there if she wanted to watch it later. She gives him his coat that he used to cover her, and he walks out because it's getting late, while Minami is still waking up. When he's already out, Minami comes running after him, wearing only a sweater and boots over her underwear, and she apologizes for falling asleep in the middle of the movie. She stops talking when Tsubasa puts a scarf around her so she wouldn't catch a cold, and she's really happy about it. Then, in order to apologize for sleeping, she says she's hungry and invites him to go eat, still in her underwear. Tsubasa loves the food, and Minami hands him a rice ball. Some of it gets stuck on his cheek, so Minami picks it up and eats it, and Tsubasa's face gets even hotter than the food. Minami is building a snowman before school, and it is so cute, she decides to take a selfie with it. Then she gets inside and sees Tsubasa. She silently approaches him and asks what is he looking at, whispering in his ear. He gets startled and asks her not to do that, and she sees the flyer he was looking at. It's the Kitami Winter Festival, and it brings her memories from her childhood. She asks if Tsubasa is interested in going, and he wants to check it out. She thinks about it a little and says that if he really wants to go, then she'll go with him. She goes away smiling, and Tsubasa gets flustered at the possibility of going on a date with Minami. At Minami's house, she, her mother, and her sister Momo are having dinner, and her sister is loving the food. Their father is late, and her mother says it's because of the weekend, but he's gonna have a day off tomorrow, so they should all go somewhere. Momo wants to go skating, but Minami says she can't go because she's going to the winter festival with a friend. Her mother confirms that she loves to go to the festival back in elementary school, and she contemplates the idea of going again after so long. The same time her father gets home. The next day, which is even colder, Tsubasa checks his phone and reads Minami's text from the day before, confirming they're going to the festival. He can't believe they're really having a date, and Minami had even sent him emojis and her selfie with the snowman she built. Just this photo is enough for Tsubasa to start losing his life points, but if the photo is already getting him this hyped, he might not come back from the date alive. So he decides to focus on his first day at a festival. Maybe Minami invited him just to be kind. He is waiting for her at the station, and when she arrives wearing casual winter clothes, he loses all of his life points in an instant. The fact that she usually shows a lot of skin makes this outfit look even better, and when Minami asks if she looks pretty, Tsubasa answers a robotic yes, which is disappointing to her. Then he tries to change the subject. It's Minami's first time going to the winter festival since elementary school, but Tsubasa is even more excited than her. He wants to see the snow statues and ice sculptures that only exist in Hokkaido, and he has also looked up the local specialties and the food stands. Minami advises him to not get his hopes up, but she spoke so low he didn't hear, so she pretends she didn't say anything and they go to the festival. When they arrive, even though everything looks simple, Tsubasa is mesmerized and wants to take a look at everything. He wants to take a photo of a big snow statue, but Minami decides they should take a selfie instead. He is embarrassed by that, but all his thoughts disappear when he smells Minami's hair, and he makes a weird face in the picture, which makes Minami laugh. Before Tsubasa can ask her to delete the photo, she smells something good and asks if he's hungry, and they go eat. He buys a corn dog dipped in sugar, while Minami eats a yakitori, wondering what she should eat next. She sees Tsubasa's corn dog and provocatively asks him for a bite. She opens her mouth and eats it from his hand, and it's really yummy. Now that she bit it, Tsubasa thinks if he has to keep eating from where she bit, because this would be an indirect kiss. Minami seems to be aware of it, and Tsubasa tries to eat it normally. But when he takes a bite, Minami smiles at him and laughs a little, wishing that every guy was as easy to read as him. They keep looking at what the festival has to offer and do all kinds of things. Snowball fights, snowman building, music presentations, sliding, and they're having the time of their lives. They stop to drink something warm, and Tsubasa says he's really having fun with all the ice and snow. Since he was from Tokyo, all of that was new to him, since the landscape was so different there. He thanks Minami for going to the festival with him. Minami was a little worried about what would happen. She used to have so much fun going to the festival as a kid, but she wasn't sure she would still have fun as a teenager, and whether Tsubasa would think the festival was lame. But she had nothing to worry about. Spending time with Tsubasa had made her like Hokkaido even more, and she remembered how nice the town really was. And she was really happy to see Tsubasa having fun and glad she went to the festival with him, which makes him fluster. Minami realized she might love her hometown, but as she's talking, she slips, and Tsubasa runs to stop her fall. He holds her and they get really close, and the embarrassment makes them get away from each other as fast as they can. Tsubasa apologizes and Minami says she's fine, thanking him for helping. As they're leaving, Tsubasa asks Minami if she wants to go out again someday. She teases him, asking if he's so desperate to hang out with her again, and he says they didn't have to go alone. She wants to go to the Sapporo Snow Festival someday, and it's quite clear they want to go just the two of them. Back at school, Minami invites Tsubasa to eat lunch with her, since she's brought something she wanted him to try, which is cup noodles. She thinks cup noodles might not be something common in Tokyo, and ever since she saw Tsubasa enjoying the food at the festival so much, she wanted him to eat more of the local cuisine. She pours hot water in the noodles and 3 minutes later, it's ready. The trick to it was using the soup broth that came with it and pour the hot water that otherwise would go to waste. Even though it looked like junk food, the appearance and fragrance of it tempted Tsubasa's appetite. Minami gives him some of it and it tastes really good, and Tsubasa remembers the corn dog from the festival, which makes him blush, and Minami teases him for it. She wants to see what kind of food Tsubasa had brought, and he shows her what he sees as a normal bento. But Minami is thrilled with the food, taking a lot of pictures, and she wants to try some. She eats the pork, and it is so good she wonders if it was made by God, but it was only Tsubasa's grandma's stewed pork. After lunch, they thank each other for the food, and Tsubasa says everything is a new experience with Minami, since he had never eaten cup noodles before. Minami can't believe that, and the fact that everything they were doing was new to him, but it was. Going to a girl's house, going shopping at a convenience store, going to a festival with a friend, everything was a first to him. Minami's gears are running wild after all of that, and she starts thinking Tsubasa might be a rich, spoiled kid. He had a different aura around him, like a Tokyo vibe, but he doesn't think of his family as rich. Minami won't let it go, and she says it's the only way of explaining everything he said. Then she asks if she can go to his house after school, and again, there was something that made it impossible for him to deny her request. On their way to his house, Tsubasa is worried because his grandma is home, but his worry disappears when Minami calls him because she's found a snow fort in the middle of the street and gets into it. Tsubasa tries not to look at her like that, but she pushes him inside. The fort is really small, it was probably made for kids, and they didn't fit there that well. But the way they were talking about how tight it was, it sounded like they were doing something naughty, if you know what I mean. Suddenly, Tsubasa hears someone calling him. When he gets out of the fort, he sees his grandma with a horrified face, asking what he was doing there, because she thought she heard a very inappropriate conversation. He tries to explain, but Minami arrives and complains he should have enjoyed his first time more, and the both of them almost explode. Tsubasa introduces his grandma and Minami is thrilled to meet her. When she says she tried the food, Grandma is a bit worried, but she says it was really delicious, and she was jealous that Tsubasa getting to eat homemade meals every day. Grandma thanks her and asks what is her relationship with Tsubasa. She was about to say they were friends, but he interrupts her and says they were only classmates. It starts to snow, and Grandma says she and Tsubasa have something to do, so they should get going. They say goodbye to Minami and leave. Tsubasa is devastated. His grandma didn't like when people were too open about their relationships, and he is sure everything was over with Minami. But then she appears right behind them. Grandma is using an umbrella, and Minami says it's wrong, because she wouldn't have a way to hold on to something in case she slips and falls, since her own grandma had a broken bone because of that, and they could get rid of the snow by just brushing it off. There was a crosswalk on the way to their house, but it was probably slippery, so Minami shows a safer and faster way home. She offers to carry Grandma's bag because she should take care of her hands, since her cooking is so delicious, and Tsubasa ends up carrying the bag instead. Minami is a bit angry at him for calling her a classmate. He said that because it was hard to say this stuff in front of his grandma, so he whispers that he thinks of Minami as a very important friend, and she ends up repeating that out loud just to tease him. They arrive at the house and Minami is impressed by the size of it. She is embarrassed of staring at the house, so she just says goodbye. Grandma asks her to wait. Minami had helped them get home earlier, so they had some spare time, and she invites her for a cup of tea. While preparing the tea, Grandma thinks she might be getting soft because of her age, but the fact Tsubasa had chosen Minami makes her think she's probably a lovely girl. However, her thoughts on Minami changed a bit when she sees her taking pictures of every little detail on the room, and saying Tsubasa was rich just as she thought he was. Grandma sees Tsubasa laughing with Minami and remembers a time when he was little. He came to her and said he was going to study and learn a lot so he could be an important person when he grows up and take care of his family. Now he was smiling the same way as back then, and she decides to put her trust at that smile. Back at school, the teacher hands out a guide for the next week's skiing lesson. Tsubasa checks the seating arrangements, and he would sit right behind Minami, and next to him was Akino-san, a beautiful girl that was currently playing on her phone. Well, that was Hokkaido Girls Are Super Adorable. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell so you won't miss anything new. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye!